Yeah, I'll take romance too. That was that one, right? Yeah, okay. Well, good morning. I just got to move this back for now. I found out people over there have trouble seeing the band when the music stands there in the way. Well, just a couple things to get us started. Turning on my changer, there you go. We are asking people to wear masks as we're sitting down, just to stay as safe as we can during this. And on the table are little connection cards that if you're here for the first time, big welcome. And you can connect with us through that. And also, because we are so new doing services here, we really appreciate your feedback. We're working and tweaking things every week, so you really help us on that. And to our online congregation, welcome. Thank you for joining us through the magical, mystical power of the ethers. Charles Fillmore would be so proud to know that now church is being done through the ethers that he talked about before we knew there was such a thing. We do have tables marked on or off camera, and I so appreciate all of you that sit on camera, because at home sometimes it looks like there's nobody here, but here we have all these wonderful people. So also, new thing over to the right is we have a family area. So those with little kids, we have some comfy chairs, and we have a crawl mat for the kids that's clean and safe. So we're making adjustments as we go along, and we do have fellowship following service, but also during service. There's coffee back there. If you want a cup of coffee, please get up and help yourself. So we're going to start out by real business here as we do a prayer for wholeness, as the world is practicing that. So let's just take a moment to affirm together. In this moment, we bless the miraculous workings of our bodies. Conceived in divine mind, our bodies sparkle with health and vitality. We lay claim to our physical strength and resilience as we adopt practices to maintain and grow our health. Every day we are guided to make choices and take actions that support the natural wholeness of our physical being. And so it is. Amen. Just breathe that in, feel all those little cells in your body be happy. And just as a reminder that we are collecting together here with that mission to spiritually awaken to our oneness with God, with each other, and all creation. And that mission comes out of our collective vision of Unity churches around the world, seeing a world powerfully transformed through a growing movement of a shared spiritual awakening. And for me, shared is so important, knowing that it's not about right or wrong, but that we honor each other, whatever path we're on or wherever we are on our path. So I like to begin with an ecumenical prayer as we affirm together, the enlightenment of the Buddha shines within us. The compassion of the Christ moves through us. The power of Jehovah strengthens and guards us. The presence of Allah surrounds and guides us. Wherever we are, the Tao is, and all is God. A little prayer song to take us even further into that collective consciousness.
Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Take charge of what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness. And know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer.
Thank you, Greg. As we come in, we do our individual prayers, we get ourselves centered, and that music helps bring us together in consciousness so we can hold those broad collective prayers. And Unity is known for being a force for good in our neighborhood, so we would like to pray for our neighbors, knowing it's not physical closeness, but the fact that we share this planet. So today, as we hold in our hearts all those people that were impacted by Ida, Haiti, who is still recovering from the earthquake and their floods, the people in Afghanistan that are still in the country and that are in the movement to wherever their new homes are, for all those people that are facing struggles in the world, we affirm together. We pray with understanding and compassion in our heart, knowing divine light shines even in the darkest moments. We bless the continued work of the world's essential workers and all those devoted to serving others in times of need. We bless those in grief, whatever their loss, knowing God is their strength. We lift our gaze to remember our shared humanity, our unity. Centered in God's divine presence within, we know the truth for each person in our world neighborhood. We are guided by wisdom, arising in love, as we act in ways that foster peace and wholeness for all. And so it is. Amen. Now we'd like to take a moment to pray for Unity Spiritual Center, which happens to be you and me and you out there in the virtual ethereal world too. So we affirm Unity Spiritual Center of Lansing embraces its journey of spiritual growth as we walk this new path of bountiful blessings. We are emerging as a greater expression of love, of force for good in our neighborhood. Receptive to the handprint of God, we are guided to fields of unlimited possibilities to be a meaningful light shining in our world. And so it is. Allah, Shalom, Amen, Namaste. Now, I'm going to give you a moment to discuss at your table, or if you're sitting alone, turn around and grab somebody or think about it. What do you remember about 9/11/2001? Most of us remember where we were when it happened. Just take a moment just to remember 9/11, September 11, 2001. We'll come back together in about a minute with some music. Sure. A little call and response coming up.
Take a look at the person next to you.
Take a look at the person next to you.
Say, God loves you and I love you too.
God loves you and I love you too.
Now feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love, we come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love. Take a look at the person next to you.
Take a look at the person next to you.
Say, I recognize the God in you.
I recognize the God in you.
Now feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love, we come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love, from every walk of life, every creed and color, in kinship we unite, in honor of the God in each other. Take a look at the person next to you.
Take a look at the person next to you.
Say a namaste, I bow to you.
Namaste, I bow to you.
Now feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love, we come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of love, we come together. We come together. We come together. In the name of You sound great.
Platform assistant for today. Today's daily word is balance. Inspired by the book of Job, let me be weighed in a just balance, and let God know my integrity. Work can be fulfilling use of our talents and efforts. We may enjoy the challenge of growing into responsibility and using our ambition to accomplish great things. But if we work too much or for too long, our energy might start to wane and our thinking becomes dull and uninspired. Likewise, too much leisure time may rob us of motivation and pull us into a spiral of inactivity. Spiritual practices bring previous balance into our lives. Through prayer, we touch eternity and feel the presence of God within. Through meditation, we focus our mind and feel calm and grounded. Through speaking affirmations, we claim divine ideas and act on inspiration. In gratitude, we find balance in God, the one presence and one power in our lives. Let us affirm together, with God, I have a life of balance. Each month, we focus on Unity Spiritual Center of Lansing's core values. This month, we are looking at our core value of inclusiveness. We know the truth that each and every person is a unique expression of God. We strive to be a community that is authentically welcoming and inclusive. As we awaken spiritually, we come to know that it enriches our lives not only to live in a richly diverse community, but to also consciously work to ensure it is a safe, inclusive community where the intrinsic worth of each person is valued and honored. There is no stranger, only parts of us we don't yet know. Let us affirm together, we embrace all people as expressions of God. Our Sunday services are hybrid experiences, available both on location and online, whichever works best for you. Live stream and recordings of the services are available on our website and YouTube. Currently, we continue to offer classes and meetings online and are expanding our offer hybrid experiences of our Thursday night meeting of A Course in Miracles. Details of all of our activities can be found on the website, unitylansing.org, and in our weekly e-news. Our prayer ministry team continues to be active and available to hold you and your loved ones in prayer. Prayer requests can be placed in the prayer box in our lobby or electronically through a website or with a phone call to the church. Thursday, September 9th, A Course in Miracles with Dan and Carol Maynard resumes this week. On Thursday, the ACIM course will be available as hybrid. You can join the meeting in person in the activity room or participate in Unity's Zoom room from wherever you are located. This week is Unity's World Day of Prayer. Ceremonies at Unity Village will be broadcast live. We will open our Unity Zoom room for opening ceremonies on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. our time so we can experience it together. And this week, let us all remember to affirm, all is well with my soul, frequently and with gusto. This fall, Unity will be offering a series of Saturday afternoon workshops on nonviolent communications. These workshops offer simple but powerful tools of communication to help us interact as a most peaceful and effective presence at home, at work, with friends, with adversaries. Our first workshop is Saturday, September 18th from 1 to 5 p.m. It will include a number of breakout times to practice what you are learning. You will learn effective collaboration, languaging, communication, which will improve connections with others and peaceful ways to engage those who may appear to be adversarial. You need to pre-register for the course in order to get the Zoom link. The registration can be found on our website. If you have difficulty registering, call the church for assistance. There is no charge for the workshops, but love offerings to our facilitator, Karen Stars, are appreciated. We're having a grand opening celebration for the public in October. There'll be a formal ribbon cutting as well as concert featuring our favorite Unity musicians, tours of the facility, and free food. We will complete the festivities with a Sunday service celebrating friendship, October 10th. Kay Batterson is heading a team to market the event to our neighbors. We can use help on Saturday afternoon to greet visitors, help with serving snacks, and show visitors around the property. If you would like to help, you can sign up at the activity table near the book table. All of our events are possible because of people like you who step forward to collectively make them happen. We now have an activity table to the south side of the entryway, which lists our teams and what they do and how to connect to them. Our fellowship team is in full swing and could use a few more team members. SALT, our Sunday adult learning time, is an opportunity to explore a variety of topics. This will begin again on Sunday, September 19th. So there are opportunities for people to facilitate on one of their expertise or favorite topics. See Dan Maynard or Danielle McMahon if you are interested in offering a SALT session. Better yet, consider joining the team. As I just mentioned, if you'd like to assist with our grand opening celebration in October, you can sign up on the team table at the far corner of the room. Further information is available on our weekly e-news website and Facebook events at Unity Spiritual Center of Lansing. And now I'd like to invite Denise Coelho up to share her beautiful voice and music.
I've done some combining here, taking an old, what I consider a classic song, and mixing it with a newer song. And when I did that, I didn't realize that this week is the Unity Day of Worldwide Prayer. So it's getting you ready for that. Oh Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. All around the world, there's a sound of people praying. All around the world, let there be peace on earth. All around the world, there's a sound of people praying. All around the world,
Let there be light on earth. Let there be hope, let there be joy, let there be light all around the world. Let there be hope, let there be joy, let there be light all around the world, all around the world.
What a beautiful mashup. And, you know, I know you didn't know it was World Day of Prayer, but Spirit did. Things are so much more easily coordinated when we don't worry about it. They just all kind of meld together. Well, you know, it's a really big week. I mean, tomorrow is Labor Day. And holidays are kind of different than they used to be before the pandemic, but nonetheless, it's that kind of, for me, it was always that mark that the new year begins because school's starting and all that kind of stuff. I noticed a few people still got their back-to-school haircuts this week. Also, Monday night starts Rosh Hashanah, which is a Jewish New Year. And it's a time that they spend, it's kind of like the long day. It's 48 hours. It goes till Wednesday at sunset, looking at how we're showing up, who we are, and who we want to be going into the new year. And then we said Wednesday is Unity's World Day of Prayer. Nan and Jerry, why don't you stand up and show us your T-shirts? All is well with my soul. Look at that. I got to get me one of those. And because it is all virtual from Unity Village, you can join any of them. You can sign up directly, but we also, Peggy Higginbotham, who does our prayer circles on Tuesdays, she suggests we come on Zoom for the opening ceremonies together, and so we can kind of see each other, or you can go on directly too. We're just trying to, how do you create virtual community? So you know that they answer, there's like over 1 million prayer requests that come in during World Day of Prayer. And when I used to work at Silent Unity when I was in ministerial school, we would go into the chapel and all those names are read out loud over a 24-hour period. It was just amazing. You would walk in and people were sitting there and the names would just come flowing out. You could just, they kind of hung in the air. But just, yeah, the need for prayer is just so great in our world. Then Wednesday is also the 2nd year anniversary of our fire. So 2 years. Look where we are. Look where we are, yeah. But even so, you know, it's been a encompassing last 2 years. And then Saturday is the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. 20 years. You know, sometimes it seems like it was yesterday. Sometimes it's something allocated to the history books. But, I mean, what a week. This is a week of just celebrations of the new year and of retrospection for the things that have happened in the past as we kind of mark those events. So last week we started a new series called See No Stranger, written by Valerie Kerr. And I'll tell you, her writing has just had such an impact on me, and I'm so thrilled to be able to share some of these ideas along with Unity ideas with you over the next few weeks. And she started out in the book, I shared this last week, that the future is dark, but what if the darkness is not the tomb, the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? That what if all this stuff that we are going through, laboring through, is actually what we are birthing, creating, that we are in that womb of creation, bringing new life into the world. And left us with the idea to stay in wonderment that when we see somebody that maybe we don't know, that we think, you're a part of me that I just don't know yet. Because Unity, our first principle is there's only one power and presence. That includes everybody. We're all part of that one. But what does that mean? When we don't know somebody, it's just a part of us that we don't know yet. And I think it's not only each person, but I also think it's an event. Those events that happen that weren't planned, or even if they were planned, there's always something else that happens that was unplanned in it. And that's a part of us too. That's a part of the oneness that we don't know yet. It's bringing something out in us. So, boy, what a great week to affirm, all is well with my soul. Because even when things out here are chaotic or stressful or celebratory or challenging, at the core of our being, all is always well with our soul. That is that surety that we have of spirit within us, that one power and one presence. But things happen. Things that are very fearful happen. And we all know about the fight, flight, or freeze response. If we see a bear in the woods, we either freeze and stand there, we run like the Dickens, or we think we're going to fight this creature. And of course, that bear could be any number of things. I know what we went through 20 years ago with 9/11. It was beyond our comprehension that we would be attacked on U.S. soil. It was beyond our comprehension to see people jumping out of buildings 80 stories up, 90 stories up. It was just incomprehensible that New York City was shut down. Of course, right now, we're sitting, who believes the whole world could shut down, for a year going through this? So, I mean, we get into those really unknown situations. All may be well with our soul, but out here I'm having a real human, a real visceral experience. But I also see that there's a fourth option that we don't talk about, and that is to face our fear, to face what's going on. Because, when things show up for us, there is no way around it. We really need to face it and go through it in order to resolve it and move on to the next step. It's, kind of fitting in this 20-year anniversary that we've ended our military actions in Afghanistan, bringing it to a close. Like finally facing, this is not working. We need to do something different. But 9/11 had a certain amount of violence that was inflicted upon us. It's the structure, the lives that were lost, the essential workers who's lost their lives, that they were trying to save others. And all the people that were hurt physically, that violence has such an impact on us. It's this rupture that also puts a pain on the people, the body of the people, the collective consciousness, if you will. That when something happens to us as a country, even though we may not be physically in pain from it, there's an emotional body of our collective consciousness. The race consciousness, the human race consciousness has this rupture when the violence happens. Now, when this happened in 2001, the author Valerie Kerr she was working master's or a doctorate at Stanford. And she started a thing on oral history, and she was bringing together the voices of people that had crossed the borders and bringing them together and just creating this living history. And she thought that to do a greater thesis, she wanted to go back to India, and back in 1947 in India, there was a partition, it was called, and there was this huge political religious upheaval that affected millions of people. And we've heard the story time and time again. Within a country, the thems and the us. And there was the thems and the us's there, and it was horrific, and there were still people alive that had been through that or had memories of it as a child or had heard the stories, and she wanted to get the stories written about us, because in our stories is how we help to heal. We help to vocalize it, to share it, and to bring it out. And then 9/11 happened before she got to India to do this. And so her and her brother decided that they would go around the country and collect an oral history of what happened. And as a white person, what I didn't realize is post 9/11, in a very short period of time, there were 1,600 black and brown people killed in response to 9/11. Because as a white person, I can say this, I was so uneducated, and a lot of the white people are so uneducated, they just didn't understand. They hadn't even seen the pictures of the terrorists yet, but anybody that looked different than the white Christian majority had to be the terrorist, had to be the enemy. And her uncle in Arizona, who was a marvelous man, who gave food to the kids. He had a gas station, and if you didn't have money, he let you fill up anyway. And he was just one of those delightful people in the neighborhood. He was out planting flowers in front of his gas station 2 days later, and a truck came by and killed him because he had a turban on. Yeah. And even she talks about at ground zero, there was this Indian doctor who was one of the first ones on the site and rescued the first victim from the towers. It was a police officer who was wandering around dazed, and he dragged him in, and he worked there straight for 3 days. He finally went home to get some rest, and when he came back out, he was attacked because he was Indian. The stuff that didn't make the news, but is still part of our consciousness, still part of the violence within this body of people that we call the United States, or we call Americans. And many times there were, epithets set out, go back to your own country, go back to your own country. This was even said to Native Americans. I mean, yeah, right? I mean, sometimes our ignorance as a mass of people, yeah, it's... Every time we keep getting them and us. That's why it's so important to be able to see no stranger, to get by that. And the Sikhs were hit so often because they wore a turban, and the turban was part of their faith. There's 5 things that they did part of their faith, and part of it was not cutting their hair, and so, for practicality, they would put it up in a turban. But because the turban looked so different, they were often targeted in this, and all across our country, people were targeted for their faith. In a country that was founded on faith, people were killed and maimed and made afraid to go out of their home because people saw them, as opposed to another part of us that maybe we don't know so much about yet. So there's a lot of grief around 9/11. Just there are babies, that were born of those that didn't live through it, that are in their 20s now. We heard in Afghanistan, that last bombing, there were 2 young men there that were like a couple months old when the battle started, when 9/11 happened, and they lost their life in those last days that we were in Afghanistan. There's a lot of heaviness in this that we all own. We may not be conscious of it, but we're living in the consciousness of it. This is our country. We were participants at some level. We have this heavy grief with that. And they say that grief, I've read this in a lot of cards, grief is the price of love. But grief is also the act of surrender, of being able to say, yeah, it happened. This is what happened. And I'm sad. I heard about it. Maybe I even have some shame about it. Maybe who knows, whatever. But it's that act of surrender into the grief. Why are you having the grief? Where is this coming from? When we step into that grief, it's not a straight linear line like graduating through school. It's this river that, just like the floods that Ida brought in, and it takes you from sobbing to anger, to being numb, not to feeling anything, back to crying again. But as a country, somehow this dissipates out. We're holding it down. It's like trying to hold a balloon down below water. It keeps wanting to come up to be healed. And boy, it comes up in a lot of different ways. This is this unresolved grief. Not any different than some of the grief that came up after we had the fire, the anxieties about losing our church home. Churches aren't supposed to burn down. Isn't there a rule about this someplace, right? All is well with my soul. all is well with my soul. In spite of all this, at the core of my being, all is well, all is stable, all is pure, all is love. And we're able to bring out that wellness, if you will, by sharing our stories, by talking about it. That's why this morning I had you share, where were you 9/11? I mean, all of us have a memory of that day. This is, one of those days. Pearl Harbor was a day. Those that were alive back then, they will remember where they were. We remember when a man landed on the moon. But when it was such a huge wound into the fabric of our society that we all have stories and we all know people. I know my son had been working right next door to the towers in an internship, and he just finished it a week before. And I'm so glad, because he loves to be the hero to go in and say things, and he would have been one of those running up the stairs. So I was just so grateful he was back in Canada during that. And as we share our stories, I think one of the most touching things and difficult things to do is to look at the other person as they're trying to figure out, why did this happen? When this violence happens, it's so unlike the all is well of our soul part that we keep trying to make sense of it. Why did this happen? What is coming up for us? And to watch somebody to go through that struggle, because there isn't an answer. There isn't an answer. Why is the wrong question. It's really about how we're going to grow through it. And we talk about we end our services, we choose love. And if we love, one of the greatest ways of loving is learning how to grieve with each other, learning how to be with each other in that pain. Well, I came up with a great new word that I knew about, but I didn't have a name for it. It's called epigenetic. And did you know, here's the scientific term, stably heritable phenotype resulting from changes in chromosomes without altering the DNA sequence. You can write that down. There will be a test later. The generic meaning of it is really extra growth. And I have noticed that things were passed down in my family that didn't make any sense that they would be genetic, why this would pass down. But they have found out now that when a trauma happens to a person, outside of the chromosomes, there's this change that's made that actually carries on to the next generation. So, when something happened to your great-grandmother or grandfather, there is part of that energy physically that shows up in your body. Physically shows up. I mean, they're now proving the scientific studies. We have a strange thing in our family that it seems the firstborn always has the child out of wedlock. And I was the firstborn, and I surpassed my grandmother at 14. I surpassed my mother at 16. I made it to 27. But it was like, once I had my child, I felt relieved. I had completed that cycle, and I couldn't ever explain it, but it really was like and now we're finding out these things are in the DNA. Or why my son would choose the tuba not knowing that my brother had chosen the tuba as the instrument to play in high school, which is very heavy to go around. So knowing that our family history, we talk about psychologically going through therapy because of what happened within the family, but knowing that this is even before we were born, that this carries on through generations. Wow. Boy, that certainly let me breathe. I wasn't imagining this, and knowing what we have to work through. So old epigenetic horrors bleed through from the past to the present. Unresolved pain within your families are impacting you today if you have not grieved them, if you have not worked through them. Well, this same thing is true as a culture. So much has come up on racism in this past year because we need to heal it. We are all carrying those wounds, whether we were the ones that suffered or we perpetrated the suffering. Genetically, it is actually coming with us generation through generation, calling up to be healed. And it's said that if we can't grieve our past, we can't really love. We have to grieve our past, really come to terms with it, accept what it was. We may not have been the ones that did it, but we're carrying the pain with us. So how do we grieve as a nation? How do we do that? I mean, how do we grieve as a family as far as that goes? And it's about sitting together, sharing those stories, learning to listen to each other, reflecting on our values, mourning the sadness, maybe mourning the shame, mourning the pain that came before us. Wow, that's a heck of a lot of work. I think of it as turning headlines into heartlines. And these are all headlines we've seen. A black boy is killed by a police officer. A turbaned Sikh father is beaten. A Jewish couple is stabbed. A trans woman is murdered. An indigenous woman goes missing. A Muslim child is attacked. Asian women killed in massage parlors. When we hear those headlines, and I can feel myself shut out. It's such a painful, I don't even want to think about it. I just kind of put it aside. Didn't happen to me, that's nobody that I know. But if I can step beyond that in knowing this is just a part of me that I don't know yet, we don't need to know the people individually to grieve. That's why when you see, many times something like this happens, there'll be a street altar built as people bring flowers or teddy bears up or candles. This is part of the grieving. And we can do that for the person that we don't know. That's how we get to know them. Opening up to our hearts to feel the pain, to feel the mourning going through. Just a couple of weeks ago, there were several motorcycle accidents around town, and there's one up here on Edgewood where people have built those altars, for what happened. And it's so important to participate. The visuals, what good does it do to do that visual with a candle? Where there's 10 people or 100 people standing there. It's that coming together as a community to grieve, not to know the why, but simply to be there, to love people enough to be in pain with them, to feel that empathy. How do we fight for one another? How do we stand up for one another? It's letting people know that they're not alone in their grief, that they are not in solitary confinement because they're in grieving. No, they are part of this sea of love. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. And justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love." And we see those headlines, to take that intention within us, to step into the grief as opposed to let that door close on this. I don't know those, therefore it's not affecting me. I didn't know my ancestors from 4 or 5 generations ago, therefore it doesn't affect me. No, there's only one power, one presence, and we're in it and we're it. I see this as really celebrating the purest form of empathy, and in nonviolent communication or compassionate communication, we've talked a lot about empathy, appropriate empathy, and to be able to love in such a way to allow it to change us. Many times when somebody's in pain, we want to change them, we want to make them feel happy. I know, I'm right there. I just do anything for smile, especially if it's a kid. Right? A kid is hurting, you just want to see them smile. But boy, that pure empathy of being able to go, wow, I feel your pain. Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm there in it. And when this happens, this is how we get social movements that really cause change. Because first people come together to grieve. And then people come together to organize. Think about it. Even the thing with the collapse of that building down in Florida. They all stood around grieving, and then they organized on how to get, take care of the building and then what the next steps are. But after we grieve, and then as we organize, as we come together as a group, then an interesting thing happens. We gather to sing and to celebrate together. Think about it. Every gathering, you see it on TV if you haven't been to one with the candle vigils. They sing. And I was thinking too, maybe that's why we come together on Sundays. We've all had things happen during the week, and we come in here and maybe we're not feeling really joyful, really celebratory. But something about coming into a place that can be safe for us allows us to have that other change of energy that actually kind of breaks up the charge and the discord of the pain and the numbness that we might have felt through the week or through the month or through the year. So sometimes grieving is never quite enough. It's part of the process, but it's not enough. It doesn't stop there. So instead of that fight, flight, or freeze, to face what's going on, to really get in there to do the work that we need to do, whatever that might be for us. Have you been to the 911 Memorial? How many have been there? You haven't been down to New York City to the memorial? It's amazing. They have taken the numbers and made them into stories, personal stories. And it just gives you a deeper empathy into the father, the mother, the sister, the little personal items. A lot of them, they have tapes of the last words they said. When one policeman is going up the stairs, he says, "I'm coming up to get you." And it was on the tape. Turning the numbers into people through their stories is just amazing. Instead of us and them, it becomes us and us. And it really is a revolutionary act in love when we can grieve with others that we don't even know, knowing that in that grief, we do get to know them. We do not get to expand our heart to include them. And it's exhausting. It can feel exhausting. It can feel overwhelming. We really need to build that stamina. There's our little heart there doing little lifts up and all the grief and the violence and the injustice. I just want to go to bed and put the cover over my head. We can comprehend one death, but when it comes to numbers, all of a sudden it starts kind of getting foggy. Thousands just become numbers. We hear how many people lost their lives in a war or a flood or a fire, and it's just a number. So we need to find that way, especially when it's our ancestors that played a part, perhaps, or our nation that played a part, perhaps, to bring it into that way that we really can connect on that personal level. And Mother Teresa, she said, if I look at the Mass, remember she's in India where there's all this poverty, all this pain, all this illness, she goes, I will never act. If I look at the one, I will. So it's not about all of a sudden taking on the whole world until we're just squished down flat because it's way too heavy to carry, but finding that one idea, maybe that one person to share the story with, to open your heart to be purely empathetic with. Because that empathy fatigue, and I'll tell you, after the pandemic, we are all at that fatigue part of a lot of different things. It's knowing that love isn't a rush of feeling, but love is the labor. It's work to do this kind of love, this kind of empathy. Our fifth principle, to take action, put feet to our prayers. What matters is the work that our hands do. So we just need to simply breathe, rest, and then we're ready to see what is that one thing we're going to do in the world, that one thing that we can see, that one person that we can connect with. Just let yourself be in that sweet labor enough to let God show up in you, to guide you to do the work that is yours to do. Let it surprise you. So here's your exercise for the week. Choose one person or maybe one event to start thinking about. Listen to their story. And if you feel yourself getting protective, getting a little tense, the heart beating faster, your face flushing a little bit because it's a really tough story and maybe you were part of it, or maybe one of your ancestors were part of it, or maybe a group you knew was a part of it. Just take a breath and move on through it. I know we can do it. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Remember, our muscles, the more we use it, the stronger they get, because all is well with our soul. So we're going to go into a little time to feed our soul with a time of meditation.
I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way.
God.
I take is taken in pure faith, and I am stronger every moment of the day. My mind is willing and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts and let spirit be my guide. I vow to live a life that's real and true and free.
that music lingers into the room here, I invite you to close your eyes and let your mind linger as it deepens to that awareness of that presence within you. All is well with your soul. All is well in the wonder of the world. Infinite presence, today I behold the world, this life, not as a parade of separate expressions, but as a unified field of all things, all people. I resonate with the words of the master teacher, Jesus. He said that when you make the two one, and when you make the inner as the outer, and the outer as the inner, then you will enter the kingdom of the consciousness of our oneness. The throne, the rule of divine thoughts. Thoughts that are inspired by the awe of the wonder of this world. The beauty, the miracles, the mystery, the diverse expressions. Wonder and awe. Wonder. As we wonder, we can feel an expansion of our heart that comes because we allowed our heart to be porous, that it can be penetrated by the heart of others, by that flow of love. And in that beautiful porousness, our love floats out and intermingles. And as each wave of love meets another, it expands and becomes part of the epigenetic imprint that only on ourselves and our generations, but on others who take a sip of the wonder. Let's take a moment to be in that presence, to be in that awe, to be in that wonder as we see ourselves as love, only a vibration of love, nothing more, nothing less, and nothing else. Allow these words to be the words of your heart. I live as a member of a larger life, God's expression of the universe, infinite mind, humanity. I give thanks to belong, and I allow my creative endeavors to be inspired and activated by this beautiful, unified field, where two or more are gathered. Strike up the band. Thank you, God, forever. Amen.
There may be walls, there may be roadblocks in my way, but I can choose to take a higher path each day. Safe
I get to bring back Denise. She's got a wonderful piece of music, one of my favorite, from our friend Faith, Vinley, one of Faith's songs. Lots of laboring today. Lots of hard work to do. Okay, I'll see you.
Where I am, God is. Where I stand, God is standing strong. Where I breathe, God is breathing life. In and out and through me, as me, where I sing, God is. Where I dance, joyless my feet. Where I live, beauty's flowing free, in and out and through me, as me. Oh, where I doubt, God is the faith in me. Where I cry, God is the comfort there. Where I seek, God is the answer. Here and now, forever and ever and ever. Where I speak, truth is. Where I work, love is my career. And where I play, God is playing boldly, in and out and through me, as me. Ooh, where I am, where I stand, where I play, where I work and breathe and move and be, where I sing, where I dance my dance, wherever I pray, wherever I take and give and live. Oh, God is, life is, joy is, God is.
This is the time during our Sunday service when we acknowledge the practice of generosity. Thank you to each and every one of you who has continued to support this ministry through this most unusual time. It is only through your gifts and love offerings and the tremendous work of our teams of volunteers that ministry continues to operate. The pandemic has changed many of our practices of how we support the work of Unity. Some of us prefer to continue to support through gifts made online or through the mail. We thank you for this support, which helps to cover the extra costs of live streaming our services. Others of us prefer to make our sacred exchange when we are present at service. You can use the envelopes on the tables and place it in the glass bowl on your table when you are complete with blessing it. These envelopes will be safely collected by ushers following the close of service. As a community, we practice this sacred generosity by tithing of the gifts we receive. This month, we are sharing our tithes through our Congregants' Choice third quarter Cristo Rey Community Center, who continues to provide essential services to those in need. Let's take a moment to bless the many gifts we have received and the gifts we are able to share with others by singing, "I Am So Blessed."
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
Having acknowledged the blessings we have shared, we also bless our practice of generosity by feeling deep appreciation for the love, the kindness, and the support that blessed each of our lives as well as this community. Let us affirm together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I praise, give thanks, and am glad. Let's join in our closing song, "I Choose Love," followed by the prayer of protection.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one. One tie that binds us that can't be undone. I choose love. Peace on the planet is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one. One choice unites us, let this be the one. I choose love. I choose love. We choose love. light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God is within us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, God.